So I'm a media artist who works between biology and other technologies, and I have been working now for over 8 years with this slime mold type, Physarum polycephalum. But now my research and my artworks are mainly focused around fungi, normal mushroom, and mycelium, and also some other bacteria. I do like also performances with microbes and urban environment, and with this fungi project I also do a lot of performative walks through forests around Berlin, and also I'm working now on a new project. One of them is a video project, and the other one is a project working on the topic of artificial meat production. So a variety of fields that I do. I did my PhD in biomedia art, so I was also interested in researching the topic of consciousness in non-neuronal organisms. So looking at the idea of decision-making processes and self-organization and various aspects that sort of belong to this topic of intelligent, or when something is intelligent or not. So in general, in my work, it's more a combination of looking for some aesthetic properties of some living organisms and combination with some functionality. So I'm looking for specific features, properties that they maybe have, and that I could maybe use or change or intervene with to make another creative output. Physarum is a great model or material living organism to experiment with if you want to get in touch with some first ideas on behavior in some simple organisms. And you can look at a lot of cell functionality and also look at some biotaxis, so like biochemical attraction to certain substances maybe, or the opposite. But you can also take some data measurements from the Physarum to see how it maybe responds to some factors in the environment, some stimuli that are around it. And with this data, you can also translate it into something else that the human can perceive, like sound or visuals, or some other things as a practical object. There is not really anything with Physarum, because practicability of it is not that usable for most people, because you still need to look after it a lot. So it's not like a device that you just plug in to the PowerPoint and it'll work. It needs some more time and work to keep it alive also. There is a lot of ways to use Physarum for modeling things, everything that's essentially coming from graph theory. So it's like two-dimensional geometrical problems or something like that. You can try to implement with Physarum very well, because it grows this network and can connect food sources with each other, so that it's very similar to some mathematical formulas from abstract geometry. So this is something you can do, but of course you can also interface it with the computer. If you take some electrodes at some points of the organism, you can measure specific behavior or responses of the organism in numbers, and then you can do anything with the numbers that you want. So mycorrhizal mushrooms, they are very important to connect plants with each other via their mycelium network, via the hyphae. So the plant can actually benefit a lot in these kind of symbiotic environments, because the fungi can get different nutritions from the ground, but it can't do photosynthesis. So some of them actually exchange nutritions. The fungi gets some nutritions from the plant, and the plant gets something from the mushroom. So they exchange, and also some type of plants, they can send signals through the mushrooms, so like biochemical signals when they have, for example, attack of some insect or something, for example, they can communicate with each other so that they can produce maybe some kind of smelly or substances on the leaves or something that will be bad for the insect, so that they are protected. So this is quite amazing thing to think about it as this kind of communication network. Also, the mycelium helps the plants to get more water from the ground. So studies have shown if a plant has mycelium, is connected to a mycorrhizal mushroom, then it usually will grow better and have more water, even if it's dry. So it's a very important organism in this environment. And so I like to work with it also because I think it's a very interesting material to see also, these dense network structures of the mycelium. It's very interesting to see and to touch. And this research project that I'm doing now with the Technical University in Berlin, they are more looking into some kind of material or design aspects to use mycelium compounds for making sustainable building materials. But I'm working on an idea that looks at the circadian rhythm of the fungi, how they synchronize with our like day-night cycle, or whether it's different, and making some kind of matrices, like how they grow over time. And you can see in lines on the density of the growth of the mycelium when it sleeps or when it's awake, or if it makes fruiting bodies or something like that. So you can see some structures, and you can also use some light influences to change this. And with some normal molds, there has been some research done with optogenetics. So you can change the light. With light, you can change genes of an organism. So you don't need to do like super complicated experiment to change genes or something. You can actually use light, and some genes, if they are under a lot of stress, like with light, for example, then they switch on other genes that were off before. So you can change an organism kind of quite naturally without having to interfere in the lab with it, let's say. So this is something that I'm looking at now with the fungi mycelium. Essentially, mycelium can deal very well with rubbish. Mycelium can even break down chemicals and poisoned earth if you have like waste on the ground a lot, and there's even now specific mycelium that they put into the poisoned ground because it filters the bad stuff out of the ground. So the mycelium actually cleans the earth, so it depends obviously on which type you're using, but some of them can actually do that, so that they don't really, let's say, they don't have a problem actually with the waste. They clean it up. No, for mycelium, I would say it's not actually a problem because they're so strong and adaptable that they can survive this really well. It's just more a problem for other plants around it or animals or us, I mean, essentially as well. If we are in polluted environments, then it's not healthy for any one of us. But because the mushroom works in a very different way and can break down nutrients and materials really well, it doesn't mind so much. I mean, of course, it will die eventually if you, I don't know, put it in radioactive environments, or I don't know, but it's quite a survival master.